Alright, so we're going to create a few things, and today we're going to do a border effect. You can also do this by doing the edge effects and different layer masks as well. So if you go ahead and, rather than create a new, open a file, and I've got a hazy skyline here. So for here, we're just going to rename this. So we're going to choose the rectangular marquee tool from the toolbox and click and drag to the opposite corner. Now, if you wanted to be a bit more precise, you can use the grids and guides on Photoshop, but for now I'm just going to do it for this. So we're going to go to select and inverse to get the outer edge, as you can see. So now we're going to add a new layer, which is at the bottom, and create a new layer. And then we're going to double click. Just going to rename it to Edge Effect, and we're going to add a layer mask, which is the rectangle shape down at the bottom with a circle inside it. And that'll give you a layer mask over there, where the outer edge is white and the inner is black. But firstly, we're going to select our empty layer, and we're going to edit, fill. We're going to make sure the contents are white and the normal is mode and the opacity to 100%. And as you can see, that adds a nice white border around that. And it fills the layer with white, as you can see on the thumbnail. And that's just created a simple border edge effect. But we're going to do it a faded transition from the image. So if you select your layer mask that you've created, which is the black thumbnail, and go to the mask section of the properties. If you don't have the properties panel, you can obviously click Windows and Properties, and you can increase and decrease the feather to make it a soft transitional edge. So as you can see, if I move the slider up, you can see it fading out slowly. I'll do it a bit more. As you can see, you can mix the layer masks with a new image layer and change the feather settings, and it'll change a lovely transitional border for you, which fits quite well with that image. So now we're going to open the next one. I think we'll do this. So now we'll start off by creating a new image layer once you have this document open. And that'll add a new layer. And we're just going to rename that, just so we don't forget why we've created that layer. And we're going to use a basic selection using rectangular marquee tool again, same as before, like so. And then we're going to invert the selection. So now we've got the outside border. Okay. So now we're going to add a layer mask to this with a rectangular with a circle in the middle. And as you can see, we have nothing in the thumbnail in the normal mask here, in the new layer. So when we go to edit fill, and the contents is white, the blend mode is normal, and the opacity is 100. And you can see the white border pops up again. Now it's fantastic, but we want to create more of a special effects on the layer mask itself. So now we want to choose a filter effect on the layer mask. So you can do the effects down here, but we want to go to filter here and the filter gallery. So it's very important to note as well that when you select a filter effect from the filter gallery, it will only work with the 8-bit image. So we can run through what you do if you have a 16-bit image. There's only a few more steps, but it is quite literally the same. So we can select many different images here. So if I pop into distort, you can see, and you select glass, and you can add a new layer. So you can end up with numerous layers. I have 2 here before because I was using one previously, so it'll keep it there for you. So you can stack up numerous effects all together. So I'm just going to choose glass and then create a new one with this button down here. It creates a new effect layer. If you do make a mistake and you want to delete one, you can highlight one and there's the trash can next to it, and you can stack them up. Now, some is worth noting as well that they will add texture to the black background, or as you have in your previous layer, the garlic images. So as you can see, that's what it'll do. Now, sometimes it is quite difficult to see the final completed look, but in some cases it's quite nice, not knowing exactly what you'll get, especially with some of them. So I'm just gonna select glass again, and you can fine tune it with the distortion here and the smoothness, and then you've got scaling. So if I choose that and select OK, like I said, you can use the preview for a basis of what you're going to get, but it won't always turn out exactly the same. But that's part of the fun, I think, with going through the effects and seeing what you can get. So if you want to apply this type of effect to a 16-bit image, then, or the 16-bit channel mode, then you'll have to take a couple more steps. So for example, I'll just have to undo. In fact, if I just close that, and I'll just file open, and I'm going to go to image and mode. Now I'm just going to change this to 16-bit channel image just to show you exactly what the steps you'll need to take. So when you have your image, I know I've changed this one to 16, but if you open yours that's 16, you will have to select image and duplicate your image. I'm just going to press OK there, and that changes a copy, or it makes a copy and opens up in a new window. So then what we can do with this one is edit this, change the mode, so image mode, and change that back to an 8. Then you can go through the steps of putting the border and layer masks over. So here's the marquee and inverse, and then create a new layer. And then a layer mask, and go back, edit, fill, OK. And then with the layer mask selected, filter. With filter gallery, what you can do is when you've done one, it'll give you an option just to repeat that last used filter gallery. So I can select that, and as you can see, it'll give me all my selections that I made previously. So now when you have all that done, all we need to do is to tile the windows. So I'm just going to close this one down. I don't want to save that. So I'm just going to go to Windows, Arrange, and Tile all vertically, and you can see next to each other. So then all we have to do is drag your layer mask that you've created with your filter over to the other image. Now when you drag it over, obviously press Shift and that'll center it perfectly for you. And there you go. So you've created a layer mask or a filtered edge effect from the gallery onto a 16-bit image. Now, if I wanted to add, for example, I'm just going to close the 8-bit one down. If I wanted to add a new layer, I'll just show you now that when you create a layer mask for it, So we did the same previous steps. Let's just say I may want to make the border a bit bigger. Select an inverse. And I'm just going to edit fill and press OK. So as you can see, when you go to your filter gallery, it won't give you the option because it's a 16-bit channel image. So that's why you have to go through the extra steps of duplicating. So image, duplicate your image and do it that way. So you get an 8-bit. All right. So next up, I think we're going to create some another border, but this time using brush tools instead. It gives you more various options, and obviously with the filter gallery, you can get something a little bit more unique to yourself. So if you're using the filter gallery for every single one, you might end up with numerous photos that have roughly the same border, or you might just stick with one border. It's nice to change it up a little and have your own unique style to it. So I'm going to add or open another image. We'll use this one. So I'm going to add a new layer to this. Double click, and I'm just going to call that edge effect again and press enter. And then I'm going to fill this layer with white. So edit, fill, and keep the settings. So white, normal, and 100% opacity. And as you can see, it covers that completely with a white layer. So we're going to add a layer mask. So instead of adding a regular layer mask, which will reveal the whole layer, I'm going to add an edit mask that will block the layer. So I'm going to press Alt and add a layer mask. And then that will block it and add in a new layer. So because you can see it's filled with black. So now we can set about the task of revealing portions by using your brush tool. If you press D on the keyboard, it'll set the default colors to black and white. And as you can see, when we draw, it'll take away or add the border in. So I'm just going to undo that. So then I'm going to select some brushes. So I'm going to select the brushes here, and you can see there are quite a lot of different brushes to choose from to add different effects. And obviously you will need to change the sizes. There we go. Make it a little bit smaller. So you can see it has a nice random shape to it, but the only problem with this is when you use it, you can see it just becomes a normal line, which we don't want. So I'm just going to undo that. And we want to keep the random shape. So as you can see, I don't want to go through pressing, which is a bit of a waste of time because you could just add a border and change the opacity. So now you can click the Window Brush Panels option, which is just next to where you tool brush, or you can do Windows and the brush panel here, and it'll bring up some settings for you. So you can change shape and dynamics, and there you can adjust the size, and you can adjust the angle jitter. So as you can see, once you move it, it changes the way the brush is shaped, like so. And you can alter the repetition, so you can flip the jitter on the X and Y, and then projection. There we go. So this can rotate the brush randomly so you can see. So as you can see there, it creates it as you go around. So you can adjust the roundness of the paint stroke as well. Like so. I think that should do. So just have to play around with the settings. And you can also use the scattering controls. And you can see you can adjust the degree of scattering. It should keep it usually quite low. You can also adjust the count jitter, so the number of the brush strokes. So increasing the count will increase the density, so sometimes it will take away half of the detail that you've put on there. So we'll keep that quite low. And that should give you enough variation. You can mess with around the texture as you go through, but obviously remember when you do click on them, it will put a tick in the box to show that's active. So then you can paint across the top of the image. Now a good way to make sure that you get a straight line. So I'm just going to press Ctrl Z to undo those. And you can change your opacity. So you can reduce the opacity to the brush to about 50%. And as you can see, that's quite a good effect, but it's not quite in a straight line. Now, if you wanted a perfect straight line, put your mouse or your cursor as the paint tool where you want it to be. Hold down the mouse button, so a click, and press Shift. Now when you move, you can see my mouse cursor is moving up and down and across as I go, but because that Shift button is being held, it will draw it in a perfectly straight line. Now, the only thing you have to be careful with is you have to let go of Shift when you want to go down. So you make sure you place it and go down. And same again. And as you can see, as I let go of the mouse, if you can see the cursor closely on there, it's quite hard to see. When I let go, the pattern of the brush is going to change because we set up the angle jitter to, like so. So you'll get a different variation angle every time you do it. And obviously because the opacity is set to, well, it's 48 here, that once you go over and over it again, you'll see it will get stronger. So I could technically add another effect to half of it here. So you could change the opacity higher and then run it over. So you end up with a completely unique border, like so. Obviously I've gone too much over this one already, so you can't quite tell on this side, but you can see the effect on the other sides that it gives you. And that's what happens when you don't let go of Shift. So there you have it. So now you can create borders using 3 different techniques. So you have your plain border, which just has a white border around it. It's effectively like setting or selecting the rectangle box and just making a box around the edge. But obviously using a layer mask, you can change it at any point in time that you want. So you have the plain white border, then you have the borders using the filter and the filter gallery, and then you have ones creating using your own technique or brush strokes, from which you can select a variation of all the preset ones. So as you can see, there's different types that you could add, which I think that one would be quite nice for a Christmas looking photo. It's quite snowy. So there you have it. You have 3 different ways to create a border.